Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Corn Belt. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, temperatures across the region here on Tuesday morning, pretty uniform, upper 60s and lower 70s for most folks across the Corn Belt. I do want to draw your attention up to parts of the upper Midwest, where we've got a bit of a stationary boundary here, separating those 60s and 70s from some cooler air, where we've got temperatures in the low 50s across northern Minnesota into the UP of Michigan, the north woods of Wisconsin, and it's along that boundary that we've seen thunderstorm activity overnight, right along that boundary across portions of western Minnesota into southern and central Wisconsin. Some prolific lightning producers and even some hail in there. And we'll take a look here at the radar picture. These thunderstorms continue again across portions of central into southeastern Wisconsin. There's been periodic severe storms there. And again, you can see the heavy precipitation over the last 72 hours in very localized areas here across parts of the Dakotas. North Dakota seeing some of that localized heavy rainfall. And then here, again, along that boundary here, right through kind of northwestern into central and then southeastern Wisconsin. And I happen to be vacationing here in south central Wisconsin in Adams County. This is a place where my family's come since before I was born. So I brought the family up here for one last summer exhale. And I got to tell you, we did not sleep a lot last night between the constant strobing lightning, the constant thunder out there, and those big cannon blast thunders periodically. We're looking at the last 12 hours lightning strike density, the state of Wisconsin here. And again, just very localized corridor here where it was a very loud and stormy overnight. And then again, I woke up this morning to get some of the video work done, and sitting there listening to the storm out the window. Starts raining, and before you know it, we've got quarter-size hail falling out there too. So an active last 12 hours in a very localized corridor here across portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin, and your meteorologist here has been at ground zero to experience it. So let's go ahead and get going. Let's look at the last 72 hours of precipitation on the top. So we're looking in the past there on the top, into the future on the bottom, the next week of accumulated precipitation. And what you'll notice there is we're going to be bringing much more in the way of organized precipitation to the central and eastern Corn Belt, including parts of all the way down to the deep south to the northern parts of the upper Midwest here. So a big corridor that's going to be looking to see some measurable precipitation that has been left out to dry for the most part over the last several days, the last week or so. Before then, we're talking about heat. We've got heat advisories from the Dakotas into parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley. Again, we're looking at the next 5 days of temperatures anomalies here over on the right. And again, you can see that core of the heat stretching from the northern high plains, the Dakotas, Nebraska, eastward across parts of Iowa into northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and northern Ohio as we head through the next several days. So we've got the ridge, that's the reason for that, and then along and north of the ridge, where we've got that kind of stationary boundary, that's where we'll keep a daily chance for some thunderstorms in the forecast. Again, along and north of that boundary, we've got a marginal or a slight risk each of the next several days. This is today's risk, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. So later on today, we'll look for a redevelopment of thunderstorms across the Dakotas and the upper Midwest. Tomorrow, we'll be looking for thunderstorms across that very same area. And then as we get into Thursday, the frontal boundary slowly starts sagging off to the south. We'll introduce a slight risk from parts of the Dakotas and northern Nebraska eastward through Minnesota and Iowa, and then parts of northern Illinois and again, central and southern Wisconsin. Finally, we've got Laura to talk about. Laura is now expected to intensify to a major Category 3 or potentially higher hurricane here as it makes landfall along the Texas and Louisiana border. This is then expected to pick up that frontal boundary that'll be making its way south across the Midwest, and it'll hook off to the east, but potentially bringing some rainfall to parts of the Ohio River Valley and the Mid-South there, Kentucky and Tennessee. Could stand to see some significant rainfall from this as we head deeper into the weekend. So again, over the next several days, we'll be focused primarily, we'll draw this a little bit further to the north, along a stationary boundary here. We're looking at the thunderstorm index here that we run internally at Nutrien, and then you can see each and every afternoon, this is 7 p.m. this evening, you can see that boundary primed right across this area. Going to be capped off to the south, but we'll look for those thunderstorms to develop across parts of the Dakotas into the upper Midwest. We'll take this into the day on Wednesday then, watching the same area here, just kind of reprime along and south of that stationary boundary. We'll take it into Thursday. Looking at a similar area here across parts of the upper Midwest, and then into Friday, continuing to see the chance for those thunderstorms beginning to sink off to the south, bringing a chance across parts of the central Corn Belt, central and eastern Corn Belt that have been very dry over the last month or so. So what's driving this? It's a change in the upper level pattern. We've been talking a lot about a ridge of high pressure out here just spinning away across the western U.S., but we're finally seeing that break down. We're seeing a couple of systems make their way up and over the top of that ridge, and eventually it's going to lead to a pattern change here where we've got northwest flow across the Corn Belt. So starting off Tuesday, we've still got ridging across the region. We've got kind of stronger upper level flow across the northern plains, across the upper Midwest. That's why we've had the more organized thunderstorm activity there, and why we'll continue to see that over the next several days. You can see Laura sneaking up here as we get into the later part of the week here, Thursday into Friday. And then as we get deeper into the weekend, you're going to see the stronger upper level jet stream flow beginning to sink off to the south. And now we're getting that stronger flow across a bigger chunk of the Corn Belt. We've kept the Gulf of Mexico open. And so again, we've got a tropical air mass here, a warm and humid air mass with jet stream flow returning to the region. Even a couple of waves here. If I take it a little bit further out here to the first couple days of September, some more organized troughing swinging through here. So this is not only northwest flow bringing the chance for organized storms. This is the potential for an organized area of low pressure, one of our classic mid-latitude cyclones here to swing through during the last days of August, the first few days of September. So something we'll have to watch here as we head into the 6 to 10 day time frame. We can take a look at the moisture content within the atmosphere, looking at precipitable water anomalies, and where you can see the red shading, that's where we've got a really humid or really saturated air mass. Where you see the blue shading is where we're a little bit drier. And again, we've kept this kind of dry corridor through the southern plains into the central U.S. all the way into the Great Lakes, which has again kept us very dry over the last 7 days or so. As we head into the later part of the week, though, into the weekend, we're going to see that change. Over the next several days, again, you can see the high moisture content along and south of that stationary boundary up and over the top of the ridge. So again, over the next several days, keeping thunderstorm activity primarily within this corridor from the Dakotas into the Great Lakes here, kind of the Dakotas into Minnesota and Wisconsin as we head into the middle and later part of the week. Now, Laura is kind of the instigator as we head into the later part of the week into the weekend, drawing this tropical air mass back to the north. And so we'll have Laura. We'll also have this frontal boundary making its way in as we get into the later part of the week. And then potentially looking at the potential then not shutting down the Gulf behind that, and then keeping it open as we get a series of potential short waves making their way through here as we get into the first few days of September. So the potential here for an active kind of week 2 across the Corn Belt here from a variety of different ways. We've got Laura, we've got the stationary boundary slowly sinking off to the south, and then as we get into the other side of the weekend into next week, the potential for a couple of organized storm systems tracking across the region. So let's go ahead and wrap this up with a more specific look at the precipitation forecast. We'll look at the high-resolution NAM model first as we head through the day today, looking for the thunderstorm activity across Wisconsin to finally begin to wane as we head into the midday hours around lunchtime. But as we head into the late evening, into the overnight, we could see those thunderstorms redevelop off to the north across parts of upper the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, back into northern Minnesota. Chance for some isolated storms across the Dakotas as well. We'll take this into Thursday then, or I'm sorry, Wednesday afternoon and evening, watching for, again, widely isolated thunderstorms possible across generally the upper Midwest, the northern plains into the upper Midwest. And then Thursday, we'll watch for another chance for some organized thunderstorm activity along that frontal boundary, again, with that slight risk extending across a big corridor of the northern plains into the upper Midwest. So total precipitation between now and midday on Thursday is going to continue to be pretty light and focused across the northern plains into the upper Midwest along that stationary boundary. So again, clusters of thunderstorms developing, bringing localized heavy rainfall here, but a lot of people still being missed. And then as you head off to the south across the central Corn Belt into the eastern Corn Belt, very dry continuing into the later part of the week. The exception being the chance for some isolated storms across parts of Ohio. Now, as we head deeper into the weekend, into next week, that's when we do start to see some changes. So let's look at the European model. Again, thunderstorm activity pretty quiet as we head into midday, and again focused across the upper Midwest, from northern Minnesota into northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. Overnight, looking at another period of storminess across the upper Midwest. As we head into Wednesday and then into Thursday, again watching for thunderstorm activity and local localized corridors across the Dakotas into the upper Midwest before we start to see some change here. Now, here comes Laura. We're into midday Friday, and then we've also got this frontal boundary sagging slowly off to the south. So we're going to see kind of a combination here that's a little bit too far north with the Laura. They're hooking off to the mid-south, but a period of storminess here from Laura, from this frontal boundary, and then potentially from a series of storm systems coming in from the west as we get into the first few days of September. So you can see it here. Again, we'll talk about details with this when we talk again on Friday morning, but you can see the weekend storminess here. This is Friday night into Saturday across the eastern Corn Belt, and the potential for reloading here across the Midwest. This would be Monday, looking at the potential first. And again, the GFS has this, the European has it. The details are a little bit different, but they both have some pretty good agreement here with one or two storm systems swinging through here as we close out August and then begin September. Here comes a second one from the European model on September 1st and 2nd, swinging a little bit further south through the Midwest into the eastern Corn Belt. So lots to talk about. As we look at the next 5 days here, over on the left, the probability of picking up a half an inch or more of rainfall from the European ensemble model. This is through the rest of the work week. And again, the better chance for organized precipitation and these corridors of thunderstorms across the Corn Belt is going to be from the Dakotas into Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan over the next 4 days here. This takes us again through Friday. But then if I take it out through the next week, so now all the way through September 1st, you're seeing a much bigger chunk now of the central and eastern U.S. with a better than 50% chance of picking up that half an inch of rainfall. Again, as we start to introduce better chances for some rain and some thunderstorm activity across the midsection of the country. Now, talking about temperatures, just to close it out, again, we'll see this heat lingering into the mid and late part of the week, beginning to fade as we head into the weekend. You're starting to see some of those cooler anomalies sink in here as we get into the August 29th through the 30th time frame. So really the heat peaking now through the end of the work week across this corridor from Nebraska into the eastern Corn Belt. A look at your high temperatures over the next several days. Today, upper 90s to the lower hundreds from the Central Plains into parts of the Midwest. That heat shifts off to the east slightly for the day on Wednesday. Big area of mid-90s expected here across the Corn Belt. That continues into Thursday before slowly starting to fade Friday into Saturday. Saturday temperatures much closer to seasonally appropriate levels as we bring some cloud cover and precipitation back into the region. Those highs in the upper 70s and the lower 80s.